hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break. And they will break. And at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment, credit qualification required, cancellation fee, auto-pay, paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645.
You're right with you, Dennis.
The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance. Airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. Okay, hey, we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. Joe should be with us a little bit later here. Had a little bit of a personal situation he had to take care of, and supposed to be back within the next 15 minutes. If not, then he'll be back tomorrow. Just sometimes, like I said, we're not privileged enough, or let's say wealthy enough that we can just have somebody else take the show over every time something goes wrong. We're pretty much a two-man operation here. So anyway, having said that, let me get our guest on for today in our first hour here, Dennis Morrison. He's author of the books Operation 80, The Action Plan, and Last Days Ultimate Christian Prepper. He came on a show a couple months ago to discuss his latest book about the Christian Prepper book, and it's about preparing for the days of the tribulation that the Bible speaks of. Those of you who actually read the Bible know what we're talking about. Those of you who pretend to have read the Bible probably don't. This was it was a very interesting discussion. We got into talking about the millennialism, different types of millennialism, and then went into comparing some of the events that Jesus spoke about in the 24th chapter of Matthew within the structure of what the church is teaching today or not teaching. And it was a very nice conversation here. So how glad to have you back, Dennis. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. I'm doing well, John.
Yeah, as I said, I've been trying to figure out exactly how to tie in what your specialty, let me put it that way, into what's going on today, because it seems, if things keep going the way they're going, then your book is going to become very relevant, very relevant down the road very soon. But it's just in terms of trying to tie it into exactly what's going on at this point in time, which is we're still just deeply tied into this battle to save our republic from those who want to destroy it and turn it into some kind of rule by the mob democracy, if you want to call it that. And people that even want that don't understand that when you go that route, it always ends up in tyranny before too long. So, and that would, of course, initiate and bring into existence the last days, because you got to remove God. If you're going to be a tyrant, you can't have God in a picture unless, of course, you're Islamic, I guess. But that's a whole different story. So how are the books doing? How's the sales doing right now?
Oh, good. Actually, the book came out mid-November, and at that time, people were preparing for Thanksgiving, and then they were shopping for Christmas and New Year's Eve. And so by the time it really got out to people, we're looking at January, and people have begun to read it, and I have had nothing but accolades on this book. Everybody's loved it. Everybody's said they learned something from it, and many people are applying what I've said in the book, because these things will all come to pass. Because if you've read the Bible, you see that there's going to be a one-world government that comes to pass. So if God's word is the inerrant word of God, meaning it's going to happen, then we all know that there's going to be a one-world government that takes over. What we have right now is a reprieve from God, from tyranny by God. And we had 8 years of Obama. And I guess if you've read Rules for Radicals, which by Saul Alinsky, he has 8 levels. And if you achieve all 8 levels, you can change a type of government. And he got almost all of those, if you've read them. And it's kind of like we're on this downhill slope, only God made it a ski jump. So we went up instead of keep going down with Hillary. And I contend that this was not election between two people, but two radically different ideologies, one capitalism, one socialism. And this world government wants to do away with borders. It's a one world government, one world currency, and it will have a mark of the beast. So in my book, I show what we can do to prepare for this. Mostly it's spiritual preparation, but there's also physical preparation. In the last days, there's going to be earthquakes and wars and all types of things. And so what God says in the Bible, in 1 Timothy, he says that if you don't take care of your own family, you're worse than an unbeliever, an infidel. So it's 1 Timothy 5:8. So I make my preparations. What I start with is the 3 power pillars. That's the Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. If you know them, you have power. If you don't know them, you're worse than a slave. You're just left to, the powers to be, their edicts. And so I stress to everybody to read the Bible, your Constitution, Bill of Rights, and get involved.
That sounds good. That sounds good. As you were talking here, what kind of popped in my head here, this to me has always been one of the big paradoxes about godlessness, whether it be somebody who thinks they're agnostic or atheistic or even just maybe just a religious person. Somebody's just religious, believes there's something out there, but they don't want to equate it to an actual sovereign creator who is all righteous and all knowing. I find it interesting because I personally believe that every person ever born is inherently needs to worship something. I think that's an attribute that God put in us. The need to worship, the need to look at something bigger than ourselves, if for nothing else, for the purpose of defining purpose for living and the things that we do. It shouldn't just be, it can't just be just a personal thing. We've got to have something bigger than ourselves. And so that's why we have so many religions out there, whether they are God-centered or creation-centered. The idea that there is something bigger than us, and that something is worshipped, and that something is sought. And one of the things I always find so paradoxical about human beings that want to deny the existence of God, and that is to literally deny, to say God does not exist. And then you say, well, where did we come from? And you get into all the theological, philosophical questions revolving around that basic question. Why are we here? Who are we? And why are we here? Whether you think it's astronauts or you think it's God or whatever it is. And I always find it fascinating that with everything else, it's kind of how a person sees it. It's subjective. I see the powers that be like this or like that. But the idea of God, the existence of a sovereign, all-knowing, all-powerful God, instead of just saying, I deny that this God has the power or the omnipresence that he says he has, they have to say he does not exist. The idea that, the difference between just saying, I don't believe in that particular God. I don't believe in a Judeo-Christian God. They have to say, no, the Judeo-Christian God does not exist, but everything else is open to debate and subject to question. Have you noticed that about people?
Oh, I've noticed it, for years. And they go, with time, anything's possible. And I'm going, no. Can you imagine, given 1 billion years, that all of a sudden a 747 is completely assembled and ready to fly with all the wiring and all the gas and levers and buttons and lights? No, it's not even possible. And then when you get back to human beings, what came first, the blood or the heart pumping the blood? And they go, oh, well, it was a little amoeba, but where did the amoeba come from? And then if it's absorbing food, where's the enzyme to break it down? Where's the, you can't get there. You can't get there. It had to start somewhere, and you start connecting the dots. So when I look at people that deny this, I look at what are you basing your whole life being on, and where do you think you're going to go at the end of it? You think you're just going to go on the ground and nothing? You're an intelligent being. We need to use that. And when you look at the analogies that God's given us, when he came to the fig tree, he was looking for fruit, found none. What did he do? He cursed the tree. Then in the other parable where he says that there were 3 servants, he says one he gave 10 talents, 1 5, and 1 1. The 10 person doubled his. The 5 doubled his. The 1 person just put his talent in the ground. He did nothing with his talent. And because of that, he said, you lazy servant, and cast him into outer darkness. What we're saying here, God's given this clear direction, is God's given us all kinds of gifts, talents, and abilities. We need to use those for the glory of God. We need to give this back to God. What are we doing in our lives that glorify God? And this is our being. This is what we need to do in our life. And if we're doing that for his glory, then we will get ours. If we don't do it, then we may be cast into outer darkness if we're not doing anything for the glory of the Lord.
Well, I agree. I just have always found it rather the fascinating side of it, any debate, is the idea, I try to keep it even more basic when I talk to people. Romans tells us that you should be able to look at the creation and tell that it came from a creator. And that's an inherent discernment. That is just something you look at something. I think the old analogy I remember back in Bible school was if you found a watch on the beach and you didn't know what a watch was, you would know by looking at it that somebody had to make this thing, that somebody had to put this thing together. Well, to keep it even more simple, if you're looking, I mean, I think it takes much more faith to be an atheist than it does a Christian. To say that,
yes,
to say we just basically evolved. I was watching this documentary the other day on National Geographic. It was over the weekend, I believe, and it was on the tribal traits of apes. And the way that the guy was commentating it or narrating it, he's studied apes his whole life, and he was trying to tie the personality traits of apes to humans. And then he starts getting into the thing, well, over the course of 1 million years, this is how man evolved and everything else. And I've always asked the question, I don't know that anybody has ever found any real evidence or documentation that man evolved from some ape-like creature. I get blasted by the pseudo-intellectuals there, where when I ask the question, something like, I'll say, well, if we evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? And they'll say, no, it wasn't monkeys. It was an ape-like creature. Okay, well, I've never heard of any evidence of that. So if that...
Well, that's a good point, John, just right there. Have you ever heard in our existence of an half ape, half man coming out of the woods? No, because every being is created after their own kind. So you'll have tigers being tigers and apes being apes and people being people, but never half and half. Half people, half ape. So I don't see that happening anywhere.
Well, yeah, but it is. It's almost comical when you approach it from this view that we evolved from something. And millions and millions of years. I mean, I look at things like, okay, so you can carbon date a skeleton, and you can tell me that this thing is X number of years old, and the time frame is, of course, longer than the 6,000 plus years that man has been walking the face of the earth. Okay, that's fine. But then, I'll come back and I'll say something like, well, then perhaps the reason why we can do that, first, okay, so you can carbon date something, say it's this old, all right? But isn't that what we call prehistoric times, meaning before time was recorded? Because really, when you look at the creation of man, in respect to our existence, we have a 6,000 plus year timeline. We have a history line. We can say something started here and it's progressed to where we are now. Most history before that is non-existent. All you can do is just say, we at some time these things inhabited the earth. Okay, fine.
Correct.
So why can we not just deduce from that 6,000 plus years of history kind of confirms that something happened after millions and millions of years of something else that existed and ceased to exist? I mean, the Ice Age killed everything. So I mean I can look at the fossils and say, yeah, okay, so there was something here before us. That doesn't negate the idea that at some point in time that creation ceased to exist, and that God determined in some point in time to say, let me create somebody in my image. I mean, I don't know why that's so hard to reason out. That to me makes more sense than the fact that we are a cosmic accident, and we've evolved into 18 gazillion different species, and always adapting to things. So here's a question. I'll leave you this, or not a question, another statement here. We got to go to a break here in a second. I was watching this thing on cheetahs, and they were talking about how the cheetahs evolved over time for survival, and how their claws became a certain way, the body became more slender, the legs became longer so that they were able to run faster. And I'm thinking, well, how did they survive before that? I mean, how long does it take for something to evolve? They should have died out before all those changes and adaptations in their body. They should have starved to death. So it's like,
Exactly.
it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, but we got to go to break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion here with Dennis Morrison. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Red State Talk Radio, WRS Cleveland.
Red State Talk Radio is now available as a voice command on your Amazon Echo and Echo Dot by simply saying, Alexa, play Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio on TuneIn.
Are you behind on your taxes? The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294.
You know, sometimes when you compare prices on products, you think to yourself, what difference does it make? The rates are all about the same anyway, but sometimes the rates are very different. Let me give you an example where there's a huge difference in pricing between companies. Vehicle protection plans. Look, if your car is 4 years or older, having a vehicle protection plan is a no-brainer. The trick is not to overpay for it. Here are the facts. The average price of a vehicle protection plan is $2,800, while the price of a TOCO warranty vehicle protection plan for most vehicles is just $1,500. The average down payment on a vehicle protection plan is $299. With TOCO warranty, there's no down payment. The average monthly payment on a vehicle protection plan is more than $160 a month. With TOCO, the average monthly payment is just $49. To get a highly rated vehicle protection plan at a great low rate, call TOCO Warranty at 1-800-987-1519. That's 1-800-987-1519. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravota from Red State Talk Radio for MyPillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. MyPillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable MyPillow is with its patented interlocking fill. MyPillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. MyPillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. MyPillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. MyPillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code RedState. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code RedState. Put sleepless nights behind you with MyPillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
If you've got joint pain, let me ask you a question. Would you like a high-quality knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Now, just in case your reception isn't great, let me ask you again. Would you like a pain-relieving knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Well, if you have Medicare insurance, you could qualify for these pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And these are high-quality braces. They are very comfortable, and they've helped thousands relieve their pain. Now, I'd like you to imagine going on vacation, playing with your grandkids, just living your life again without pain. The Mobility Hotline is a referral service that connects folks with Medicare coverage and other insurance to accredited companies offering pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And don't you worry about the Medicare paperwork. They'll handle it all for you. And they'll deliver your braces for free. Call the Mobility Hotline now. The call's free. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help, and your insurance may offer coverage.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573, 800-518-1573.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573, 1-800-518-1573.
Red State Talk Radio. Real radio for real Americans.
Now back to the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, and we have with us Dennis Morrison, author of the book 180, Operation 180, The Action Plan, and his latest book here, The Last Days Ultimate Christian Prepper. And we were just kind of randomly talking here about this whole concept of godlessness and how people can deny the existence of God, but always have the need to replace that with something else or somebody else, depending on how that person has been. I was laughing over the weekend reading a short clip on Madonna, who I guess thinks she's some kind of Catholic/Jew. I'm not really sure what it is she practices. I think it's called Kamala or something like that. And decided that she needed to dress up like a Cinderella princess, Beauty and the Beast, a princess from Beauty and the Beast, to celebrate the latest Jewish holiday. I forget what it was. It's just this kind of stuff. I mean, how screwed up can you get that you really don't know what it is you believe in? So you just kind of, let's just mix it all into a pot and call it something, and we'll just act all spiritual and everything else. So anyway, Dennis, in terms of what's going on right now, let's kind of just shift gears here a little bit here. What's going on right now with Donald Trump's administration? There's a lot of things happening. We've got certainly somebody within the administration, one or more people, are leaking things out of this administration to try to take him down. I was reviewing, I'll probably talk a little bit later, about the big revelation yesterday that Donald Trump actually paid taxes in 2005 and actually paid more taxes than Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama combined in 2005. So it kind of killed the narrative that he doesn't pay any taxes. But the big story, I guess, is that the media was able to get their hands on something. And now we're talking about whether it's legal or not. But the overall response of what's going on in the media coming from the Democrats and the lack of action on the GOP's part, a Congress that to this date hasn't passed anything since Donald Trump has been in office, and just kind of stands on the sidelines and says and does nothing about all the attacks that are being leveled against him. In fact, some of them are participating. Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and stuff like that. What's your assessment on this?
Well, I look at it as a very much of a spiritual warfare. And you've got, like I said before, you've got this political elite, that global elite that's going to have its way eventually. Some call it a deep state, where they're all working. And if you watch, they know just as much as we know. In the Bible, it says, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So you're watching the left, the Democrats, the politically correct, the liberals, the progressives, whatever you want to call them, they're all in lockstep. They're going to stop anything that Trump does, because Trump's a good old boy. He's a guy that he's had his own company. He leads by example, and he does what he says he's going to do. Well, he said he's going to drain the swamp, and they don't want the swamp drained. And there's all kinds of things that he said he's done. And I mean, what has he been in 50 days? I don't think he's even been two months. And the things that he's done has been unbelievable. And so when I watch that, when I watch the things that he's done, he's added jobs. He's actually reversing the debt clock. It went back by $68 billion. He's bringing back manufacturing. He lowered the cost of the Air Force One. And he's saving the taxpayers, you and me, billions of dollars. But, I look at what he's doing is a good thing. And so the left, or I'd say the evil, let's just say it that way, doesn't like it. So they even have demons, and they have the witches and all that making prayers and casting spells against him. So it's like the whole demonic force is moving against him, and it's hard to control a deep state like this where you've got people leaking, you've got the IRS leaking his taxes, you have the NSA listening in on phone calls, and you've got the CIA, the FBI, and most of these people are all Obama holdovers. They're all Democrats. Most of them contributed to the Democrat Party. So it's a hard thing to start weeding these people out, but they have to be weeded out. They have to be vetted, and I look at it as a very evil thing going on right now. And he's trying to shrink the government down to a reasonable size and build the wall, and they say that is not going to happen. Schumer dug his feet in and say he'll do everything he can to stop it, even though in 2006 he voted for it. So that's what I think. And then the other thing is, in the Bible it talks about the left and the people on the left, that if they don't accept the Lord and that type of thing, they'll give them over to a reprobate or debased mind. And that's where I think Madonna and some of these other people are. They're starting to lose their mind. And the media is doing all these fake stories, which I've watched and I'm going, what are they doing? So I'm looking at it as very much of a spiritual warfare.
Well, I agree because really we have to boil it all down to that. You know, I often tell people when I'm speaking in front of churches and ministers and pastors, people like this, and you start talking about the political ramifications of what's going on with somebody like something like the last election cycle, and you look at this and people are like, you know, most people just want to throw up their hands and, this is such a conglomeration of junk that I don't even want to get involved. But you have to take it down to that, because you really have to emphasize to people that politics is simply the arena in which the spiritual warfare of good versus evil plays out. And if you choose to remain ignorant of that, and you think it's just, you know, them against us, and it doesn't really matter, and we need to keep this separation of church and state, and the government's different from the, you know, that to me is a big deception. The big deception in our country, our republic, is that we've bought into this lie that government and the sovereignty of God don't mix. And when you really have to come back and say, but if we are talking about our founding documents would tell us that everything that we have has been endowed by a creator, and now you get into the argument again, as I mentioned earlier, well, define creator, you know. And it's such a self-defeating exercise when you can just say, okay, maybe God exists, but maybe I don't like the way he exists. Maybe I don't like his rules and everything, but be honest about it. Don't sit there and tell us because I don't like the rules and I don't like the situation that he doesn't exist. That's self-defeat. That's self-deception, don't you think?
It's a huge deception. And people think, well, you know, I'm just going to sit this one out. I'm not going to get involved. And the whole thing is that if you don't get involved, the devil will get involved in your life. The bottom line is you have to take control. This is the part that I'm talking about in my books, where we have power. I mean, it's the dunamis power of the Lord that gives us in the Bible if we do what he says to do. And the Constitution gives us rights, and the Bill of Rights gives us rights. And if we don't use the power in the Bible or the Constitution or Bill of Rights, we are slaves. We're slaves to the devil. We're slaves to society. We're slaves to the government over us, or we're rulers. And we have that power. And this is the whole part. If people would get this book and start reading it, and I know you've read most of the book, it tells us how did Israel get started and why are they such a great power? These are God's people. How did the United States get started? And what were the circumstances that made us powerful and triumphed over the world's largest army and navy? When we didn't even have a standing army or navy, and we won. And they invaded us 3 times, and we killed them 3 times. And it was only because of the power of the Lord. And so when we understand who's in charge, who's really in power, and why. Israel is the Jewish state. We are the Christian state. We have been given power and favor from the Lord. And if we would just turn from our sins and repent and give glory to God and pray to Him, He said in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if you do this, I'll bless your nation again. I'll give you everything you need. And so He's given us a reprieve because we have Trump in, but this is only a reprieve, and then this comes in. This new world order comes in. I believe right after that, someplace in there, we're going to have the rapture. But that's, I don't know. No man knows the day or the hour. That's why we have to prepare, and so we have to prepare physically and spiritually for the last days. My book goes into detail on all these things, and if we don't do it, then it's to our own peril.
Outstanding. We're coming up on the end of our time with you, and I wanted to give you time here to let people know how they can get a hold of either one of your books, Operation 180, The Action Plan, or Last Days Ultimate Christian Prepper. How do people find that book?
Well, you can go to my website, which is DennisDMorrison.com, and there you can order the books. You can see speeches that I've given, the interviews here on this radio station, and that's the best way. I talk a little bit about the books. I'm developing the website as we speak. Some of the things I'm trying to do is start a Facebook and Snapchat accounts, so I'm working on those to get the buzz out, and I know that the people that read this book will stand a better chance moving into these last days for themselves, their families, and to be able to share with others so they don't have to fall into these terrible times. My next book is going to be about those that are left behind after the rapture, so that's a very interesting undertaking. But I'm just excited because now this is the time where people can start to grasp. I think you can feel it. I think you can feel it in the air where there's so much vitriol going on about Donald Trump, about anything religious that's good, and they're coming against all these things. And this is where we have to start to fill ourselves with the truth and with the light, and so that we can repel this darkness that's coming, and it's coming. And I'm talking to you, every one of you out there, that if you don't take the precautions you need, you can fall into the hell that God has for those that don't take the precautions. And if it's just for your family and all of a sudden there's an earthquake and you can't get food or anything else, I don't want you looking at your daughter or your son and saying, I'm sorry, I don't have any food. I don't want to see you watching them starve because you didn't prepare. So it's all about preparation. And that's what I'm saying. Just get into the website, DennisDMorrison.com, check it out, get the book, read the book, and you'll be better off for it, and your family will as well.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for coming on, and I really appreciate taking time to come on and talk about this. This is an ongoing subject, and we'll keep you in touch with you, okay?
I look forward to it. Thank you, John.
All right. God bless you. Okay, guys, we're coming up on the top of the hour here. So we're going to, we got a few minutes here. Let me just touch briefly here before we actually break off here. Kind of going back over the Rachel Madcow tax return revelation, the big revelation. Boy, you would have thought this was like the discovery of the Holy Grail, the way that they played this up in the media last night. And but it wasn't without its own ramifications. For one thing, as I said, the narrative that has been floating out there, the narrative that was introduced, it was the same narrative that was used against Mitt Romney in 2012. Remember Harry Reid? Mitt Romney hasn't paid any taxes, or Mitt Romney has his bank account in the Cayman Islands, and Harry Reid later admitted that he knew it was a lie, what he was saying, but it didn't matter because it worked. And so the narrative was trotted out again. During the latter part of the election cycle, when it was down to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Why is it that Donald Trump was refusing to release his tax returns. Now, Donald Trump, of course, was giving the reason that he was under audit. He'd been under audit for a number of years, and he had been advised by his attorneys not to release this information until such time the audits were completed. Well, the narrative then shifted, and, people got somebody in the IRS to say, oh, well, he could release them if he wants. Well, he could have released them if he wanted to. He never said he couldn't release them. He said he was advised by his attorneys not to release them. And because of that, he had not done it. So anyway, in fact, you'll remember he said, I will release my returns if Hillary Clinton will release the 33,000 emails that she deleted. So it wasn't that he wasn't going to or couldn't. It was that he chose not to at the advice of his attorneys. Now that in and of itself should have stifled that argument, because what everybody wants to do is they want to take certain traditions and protocols and they want to discard them when it doesn't fit their narrative, or they want to keep them. Another example in line with this is Jeff Sessions asking 46 U.S. attorneys to resign. Well, everybody has done that since Bill Clinton. A lot of people don't talk about this kind of stuff. Bill Clinton, there's 94 U.S. state attorneys that are appointed by presidents. Bill Clinton replaced 93 of them. So Bill Clinton, a liberal, is the one that started the process of replacing U.S. attorneys. That's not to say other presidents had not done it before, but the point being is that Bill Clinton set the precedent of saying, I want all these attorneys replaced. Why? Because Janet Reno, who was his DOJ head at the time, didn't want any obstruction. She didn't want anybody standing in the way. Let's put Clinton appointees in all these positions so that we have a cohesive unit, a court system that can help us adjudicate from the bench. Now people say, well, George W. Bush, I understand, appointed or replaced 8 of his own U.S. attorneys during his second term. After he was elected a second time, he chose to replace 8 of his U.S. attorneys. Now, I don't know what the numbers are as to how many he replaced when he initially came in, but now we have Barack Obama. 94 U.S. attorneys, right? Jeff Sessions asked 46 of them to resign. Well, the point being is that 46 of them had all, or how many of them? There's 46, so you take 94. 42 of them, 42? Oh, whatever that number is, 46. The other half of them, the remaining attorneys, okay, U.S. attorneys, my math sucks these days, had already left office, had already left their post because they knew they were going to get replaced. So when Jeff Sessions replaced or asked 46 of these U.S. attorneys to resign, there was only 46 Obama appointees that were still sitting on a bench somewhere. So that's how standard it was. Everybody knew. Okay, I'm new president. I'm on my way out. Okay? Now, so why was it a big deal that one New York U.S. attorney decides he doesn't want to resign, and this becomes the big thing? Oh, well, we should do away with this. We should do away with having to replace U.S. attorneys. We should do away with the Electoral College because we didn't get the results that we wanted. And it just seems unfair that all of a sudden it matters how we elect our presidents. Nobody cared for how many decades, how many centuries about the Electoral College. Nobody questioned it, not to a great degree. I mean, there's always been people that question things, but an entire resistance movement built behind it? Come on, let's get real here. So now we turn around these tax returns, and it's been accepted protocol. Every president since Nixon has given their tax returns. So that is the accepted norm. Donald Trump says, no, I don't want to give my tax returns out there. Why should I have to? Rachel Maddow and the rest of those people out there are saying, oh, but everybody else has done it. Everybody else has done it, and you should do it too because we think you should do it. Because why? Because everybody else has done it. And so now we're sitting here having this big argument over tax returns that Donald Trump has no legal obligation or even a moral obligation to share with the public. But the constitutional terrorists that make up the leftist media do what? They circumvent the law. They break the law. Rachel Madcow comes out and says, we got him. We were able to get him. We were able to get our hands on him. And by the way, we did this legally, folks. We did this legally. How did we do it legally? She didn't tell us how they did it. They didn't tell us where the tax returns came from. What they do tell us is that we have done it legally because the First Amendment allows us to do it legally. First Amendment, freedom of the press, means that we can do anything in order to obtain the information that we want under the guise that we're serving the American public by doing so. Well, if that's the case, what's the big deal then about the NSA spying on private citizens? Why are the leftists so upset about the NSA data mining? Why are they so upset about getting stuff on private citizens, storing data, whether they use it or not? Why are they so upset about senators? Remember that? Liberal senators getting their phones tapped? Oh, how dare you do that? Well, what about the First Amendment? What about the right to obtain information for whatever reason because you think it's in the interest of the people or a national security issue? That's how they're painting this thing. Trump's tax returns are an issue. It's a national security issue. Why? Because we need to know if he's been conducting business with Russian operatives that are tied to Vladimir Putin. That's what they want. That's a narrative. So what if he's conducting business with Russian operatives tied to Vladimir Putin? What difference does that make? Nobody cares about the fact that Hillary Clinton's selling uranium to a shell company through Canada that ended up in the hands of Russian operatives. Nobody cared about that. Nobody cared about the enormous speaking fees that Bill Clinton got speaking to Russian corporations after Hillary Clinton signed off on the Uranium One deal. So what's the big deal? The big deal is that when you have nothing else left to do, remember Barack Obama, I remember him in the primaries talking about the Alinsky tactic, but he was using it to demonize his opponents. Well, he didn't call it the Alinsky tactic. He said, well, when you've got nothing else to go with, you have to attack your opponent. You have to demonize your opponent. Well, that's been the entire leftist mantra since the days of Clinton. The vast right-wing conspiracy ignited this whole idea that you have to demonize your opponent. Alinsky, what? Acknowledge your opponent, recognize, identify your opponent, isolate your opponent, and attack your opponent. Zelensky's once said that ridicule is the greatest motivator. If you ridicule, if you slander, if you smear, if you lie, it doesn't matter that it's immoral. It only matters that it works. That is what they're talking about. So anyway, hey, we're at the top of the hour. Edward's Notebook, pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Oh, my goodness. So the statist Republicans trotted out Obamacare Light. I feel it is yet another insult to the American people. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, so now we, the people, are possibly being forced to wait indefinitely before there will be any serious tax cuts because the powers that be decided not to cut one single tax until after Obamacare is replaced. One of the excuses used to drag the process out is certain Senate procedure rules. And also, if Obamacare is totally brought up for a vote, then the progressives like Chucky Schumer will filibuster and prevent any progress. To that I say bunk. Because if they would have done a better job of defending the medical marketplace when Ali Obama was foisting his socialist health-damaging system upon us, perhaps the dilemma they now refer to wouldn't be occurring now. So basically, this drip, drip, drip approach will do little to relieve the burden now faced by the average American who has to endure it, unlike Congress and President Trump, who enjoy a far superior form of health care. Meanwhile, this Step 1, Step 2, Step 3 approach kicks needed tax reductions further down the road. Those midterm elections will be very interesting, to say the least. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. theconservativesyndicate.net, the adult in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring.
The Strident Conservative. We could agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong.
Hello, America. This is David Leach, the Strident Conservative. Donald Trump is turning out to be the same kind of lying liar telling lies as the GOP establishment he promised to drain from the swamp. Whenever I provide documented evidence proving this fact, I inevitably hear from the Trump cult that he's better than Hillary, which you have to admit is a pretty low bar. Inevitably, these Trump loyalists, some would call them worshipers, will then point out how Hillary was corrupt and how she broke the law, as we saw with her email scandal. Lately, whenever I point out one of Trump's lies, the Trump chorus line will level one of their verbal assaults in an attempt to defend the indefensible by asking me to provide a list, or at least some evidence of his broken promises. When faced with this challenge, my response is usually, how much time do you have? Because there's plenty of evidence out there, as we see in this latest tidbit involving the aforementioned Hillary Clinton. Trump used Hillary's email scandal as a campaign strategy, and he promised to prosecute her if he was elected as president. Just days after the election, Trump started to pivot away from that promise, saying that the Clintons are, quote, good people, end quote, and that he didn't want to hurt them by pursuing the matter. A few days later, Kellyanne Conway confirmed in a TV interview that campaign Trump and President Trump aren't necessarily the same person. What he promises in the campaign is not necessarily what he'll do as president. Now comes word that Trump's Department of Justice and the State Department refused to cooperate in a legal case involving a request made by two conservative groups to see Hillary's emails. According to DOJ attorneys, the case is now moot, and the documents previously provided by Obama's Department of Justice are sufficient. Trump has broken several big campaign promises, and by not prosecuting his good friend Hillary Clinton, he's added one more. If you have a comment on this topic, visit StridentConservative.com. And if you're into social media, give us a like on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by CitizensUnited.org.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
It's a latter-day prophet, baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos. All right, hey, we're back. Hour 2 right here at the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. We're so glad you took the time to join us today. And let's see, we're Wednesday here. Yeah, hump day to many of you out there. You know, I am one of the people that have, I'm one of the many people in the 95 million out here that that are not in the workforce. And I am not in the workforce for a very simple reason. My company shut down a few years ago, and it was just and has become very difficult over the years to get back into the employment ranks because of my age. So I just decided a couple of years ago, hey, enjoy your retirement. And that's what we're doing here. And what we're doing here is a Conservative Syndicate. This is how I pass my time. This is how I do my retirement. This is how I do what I do. And I do it because I want my children and grandchildren and now great-grandchildren. Had our 4th and 5th great-grandchildren last year. And I want them all to benefit from what we have attained in our life, my wife and I, during our years out there in the workforce. So that brings me back to my topic here on Rachel Madcow's release of Donald Trump's 2005 tax returns. The idea here is, here's the deal, guys. At this point, it doesn't really matter, and it's not going to matter to the media, whether or not Donald Trump paid taxes. That was the narrative. Donald Trump had not paid any taxes for the last 18 years. And that became, why doesn't he release his tax returns? He's hiding something. And what they thought he was hiding was the fact that he hadn't paid any taxes. And there were some of the things that Donald Trump had said during the debates that kind of led you to believe that might be true. Remember when he told Hillary Clinton, if you don't like what I paid or didn't pay, change the tax code. You've been here 30 years and you could have done something, but you've done absolutely nothing. So you kind of got the impression that, yeah, maybe so. But even so, why would you begrudge somebody of that? I was talking with somebody the other day about this, and I was saying, when you think about it, mandating taxes is something that took place in this country after the Civil War. Up until that point, there was no such thing as mandatory income tax. But think about this. After the Civil War, who was there to tax but the wealthy? Certainly there are people that gained and attained wealth during the Civil War. Mostly people that supplied things to one or both sides of the conflict, the Civil War conflict, right? People made money, and some people made some good money. So who are you going to tax but the wealthy? Now, the point being is that we all know, if you know your history, you know that the IRS was supposed to be the IRS didn't exist, but the taxation was supposed to be a temporary thing. But then we come into the early 1900s, the industrialist period. We had the monopolies of people like Carnegie and Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and some of the other big industrials out there who made millions and millions of dollars on monopolies. The monopolies were broken up. The IRS decided, the government decided, this tax dollar thing is pretty good. So they created the IRS for the purpose of making sure that all Americans paid taxes. And I don't know if it was about the fair share or anything else. It was that they were going to pay taxes. But since the wealthy are the ones that rebuilt this country after the Civil War, I can understand why they were saying, well, we're going to give breaks to those who earn much more than the average American so that we can continue to keep people employed, keep the expansion of corporations and private enterprise so that the wealth can be shared and distributed. And so then now redistribution is what? Is taking that wealth and giving it to somebody else. So you have distribution, wealth distribution, which comes through the private sector, wealth redistribution, which comes through the government taxing the private sector and then doling it out to whichever specific demographic or demographics that they think will keep them in power. So getting back to the tax thing, the whole thing about the taxes is simply this. Rachel Maddow made a bigger deal about being able to get the tax returns than what the tax returns actually said. Because that is the narrative the media is trying to put out there right now. Donald Trump, you think we're the illegitimate ones. You think you're legitimate, we're not. You think we peddle fake news and you don't. And we're here to tell you that we can do anything. That's what Rachel Maddow was saying. She's saying the big takeaway from her obtaining Donald Trump's tax returns is what? They got the document and it's obtainable. We can get our hands on what we want. And whether it means doing it dishonestly, we have the First Amendment to protect our illicit activities. Think about that. We got to go to break. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, we're back. The Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. Joe will be back tomorrow, I'm sure, with us. Had some things he had to take care of. Family business, you got to take care of the family. All right. Hey, I want to talk about this tax thing from a different perspective here. Let's leave the Rachel Madcow thing off to the side. I probably spent more time on it than I really should have. But the reason I did was because I really think we need to start looking at some of these beliefs by the media that the First Amendment allows them carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want to do, any way they want to do it, to whomever they want to do it, in the name of free press and public service. The idea that Rachel Madcow would actually sit here and defend illegally obtaining tax returns on a private citizen under the protection of the First Amendment is a stretch beyond the idea that we should regulate guns because guns kill people instead of people killing people. It's the same kind of extravagant, delusional mind processing of something, deconstructive narrative, so that you can redefine it and put it back out there within a different context that fits your collective agenda. There is an article in CNS. I want to use this article to kind of get into the tax thing, not dealing with Donald Trump, but the concept of redistribution of wealth, because that is something I think we really need to look at when we're dealing with the argument or debate over the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. Nancy Pelosi, here's an article on CNS by Terrence Jeffrey, The Pelosi Principle. And he starts this article out by saying, suppose the federal government confiscated 90% of the income of every private sector worker who earned more than the poverty level. I think the poverty level in this country is $15,000 a year. Could be a little more. Anyway, then suppose the government used some of that confiscated money to pay government workers and the rest to provide benefits to people who do not work or earn less than the poverty level. Now, it's funny here because what Mr. Jeffrey just described was exactly what happens within our government. Think about it. Our tax dollars go to employ public servants who then turn around and take remainder of the tax dollars and dole it out. So we are paying public servants in different bureaucracies and different agencies, many who have just been created in the last 30, 40 years, for the purpose of doling out money. Maybe 50 years if we talk about welfare, okay? 60 years if we talk about Social Security. But you get my drift. So he's saying, would that be a transfer of wealth? He's asking the question here, are we transferring wealth when we take money from private sector and distribute it to public sector for the purpose of doling out money to those who are in neither the private nor the public sector, or maybe in the private sector, but not earning enough according to what government officials believe is the level of poverty. So it's a very dynamic question asked in it's actually a reality, but formed in a question, and it makes you think about what is actually happening here. If so, let me reread that. Suppose the federal government confiscated 90% of the income of every private sector worker who earned more than the poverty level. The reason being is that people under the poverty level do not pay taxes, right? Then suppose the government used some of that confiscated money to pay government workers and the rest to provide benefits to people who do not work or earn less than the poverty level. Would that be a transfer of wealth? Well, it's redistribution of wealth, okay? If so, would that transfer of wealth go from those whose money the government confiscated to those who received it? Or from those who received it to those forced to give it up? It's vice versa. Look at it. This is a vicious cycle of taxation is what they're talking about here. This is a vicious cycle of how taxation has been used to grow and build the government that we have today that places the collective over the importance of the individual. That's the narrative. It's that we should all be taking care of each other. Well, that's a nice, moral, noble concept, but it's not reality when you're forcing people to throw money into a pot that you're going to give to somebody else and then paying other people to do that for you. None of what you have given consent, willful consent, let's put it that way. So he goes on now, well, how would House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi answer that question? Okay? Pelosi's argument against the Republicans' flawed plan to replace Obamacare is the way that she's looking at this, but she's saying it's reverse. She's saying what we're doing is we're taking money that should be doled out to those who need it, taken from those who they believe have too much, and we're giving it back to those who have too much. That is Nancy Pelosi's assessment of what the repeal and Obamacare movement, or the American Health Act, the AHA, that the GOP is floating out right now to replace the Affordable Care Act, the ACA. All right? Pelosi argues that any diminution in the amount of money the government takes from Tom to give to Harry is in fact a transfer of wealth from Harry to Tom. So she's saying the tax dollars that we've been taking from the wealthy, or those that we have determined should be paying taxes, and we've been giving it to those who cannot or should not have to pay taxes because of their poverty level. And so what we're doing through the replacement of Obamacare is we're taking that tax dollars that we had previously taken from this person to give to this person, and we're giving it back to the person from which it originally came. And that is wrong. That is morally wrong. She says the Republican bill is one of the largest transfers of wealth from working families to the richest people in our country. This whole lie that the rich are the ones that are going to benefit from the repeal of Obamacare. That's the narrative here. The rich are going to benefit from, not the average middle American that lost their plan, and now if they want to go back to their plan under the new act, AHA, if they want to, they're going to pay more. If I was to go back on my PPO, I know I would pay more now than I did when I had it and let it go. Okay, so that's. But I am not rich, and neither are you. But they have to pick that 1%. That 1% has become the demon and the target. Remember, Alinsky, isolate, demonize, and attack. Isolate the 1%, demonize the 1%, and attack the 1%. And of course, the Republicans are in bed with the 1%. Let's not forget the Democrats are in bed with the 1% also. It's not like Nancy Pelosi hasn't received money from special interest It's not like her campaign chests aren't filled with money from leftist operatives out there that are just into the same game as the Koch brothers and everybody else is being labeled by the left as being the establishment. Globalists come in all shades and colors. They come in all party affiliations. So the CBO comes out and releases a plan and says that 14 million people will lose their insurance right away, and that there'll be 52 million people that will not have insurance by the year 2026. And so Nancy Pelosi takes that number and she runs with it. And she says, how can they look at their constituents in the eye knowing that they're putting 24 million people out of health care? They're displacing 24 million people out of health care. 14 million next year, or by 2018. I think it's another 10 million by another 10 years. And then there's going to be a total of 52 million by the same year, by 2026, that won't have health care. Now, you hear that, and your radar goes up, and your compassionate radar kicks into gear, and you start thinking, well, how atrocious, how greedy, how unfeeling, how dispassionate that we would allow that many people to lose their health care. But what you're not hearing is what that number represents and where it goes and what's it mean. Now, there are three narratives that are going to start hearing as we get more and more into this Obamacare debate here, as it works its way through the House and eventually to the Senate. Again, I'm not speculating as to whether it's going to pass or not. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. I hope somebody in their right mind says, hey, why don't we just repeal this thing and let's give this all back to the states. Let's let the free market work. Let's let the states regulate and do it by the will of the people in which these states exist. All right? Three narratives that you're going to hear from this point forward, whether it passes or not, is that, one, people are going to lose their health care. That's going to be the number one thing. The CBO announced 14 million to lose insurance almost immediately by 2018. Another 10 million by 2026 will lose their health care, which means by 2026 we'll have 52 million people in the country that don't have health insurance. All right? Well, the CBO does go on to explain, but it's not reported and not mentioned in Nancy Pelosi's little talking points, that close to 10 million of these people, these losses in insurance coverage, will come from those who were mandated to purchase it under Obamacare. What they're saying is that about 10 million of these people are simply going to drop Obamacare because they were forced to buy it and they don't want it. That is hardly displacing that many people. You're not displacing somebody who decides they don't want it. You're forcing them to buy it. That is, and you're telling, well, you need insurance. That's what the government says under Obamacare. You need insurance. In fact, you not only need insurance, you must have insurance, because that's the patriotic American way. And so we're going to create a law that mandates that you purchase health insurance, whether you want it or not, whether you need it or not. Now, 10 million of these people decide, hey, the mandate's no longer there. I'm not going to pay for it. I don't need it. I don't want it. But we're displacing them. They're losing their coverage rather than giving it up as the left would have it played. Now, the other 10 million by 2026 is what? The projection of other people that will come of age during the next 10 years that have the option of buying or not buying health care insurance and just decide not to buy it. Again, people that just decide they don't want it. They don't need it. So you got, 24 million people by the year 2026 will have decided they don't want health insurance. They don't want to pay for it. That is a hard stretch to say that the Republican plan is throwing people out of insurance and taking that insurance coverage away from them. We'll get more into this. There's two other aspects of the narrative that you're going to be hearing. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Red State Talk Radio is now available as a voice command on your Amazon Echo and Echo Dot by simply saying, Alexa, play Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio on TuneIn.
Are you behind on your taxes? The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294.
You know, sometimes when you compare prices on products, you think to yourself, what difference does it make? The rates are all about the same anyway. But sometimes the rates are very different. Let me give you an example where there's a huge difference in pricing between companies. Vehicle protection plans. Look, if your car is 4 years or older, having a vehicle protection plan is a no-brainer. The trick is not to overpay for it. Here are the facts. The average price of a vehicle protection plan is $2,800, while the price of a TOCO warranty vehicle protection plan for most vehicles is just $1,500. The average down payment on a vehicle protection plan is $299. With TOCO warranty, there's no down payment. The average monthly payment on a vehicle protection plan is more than $160 a month. With TOCO, the average monthly payment is just $49. To get a highly rated vehicle protection plan at a great low rate, call TOCO Warranty at 1-800-987-1519. That's 1-800-987-1519. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravoda from Red State Talk Radio for My Pillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. My Pillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable My Pillow is with its patented interlocking fill. My Pillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. My Pillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. My Pillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. My Pillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code RedState. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code RedState. Put sleepless nights behind you with My Pillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
If you've got joint pain, let me ask you a question. Would you like a high-quality knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Now, just in case your reception isn't great, let me ask you again. Would you like a pain-relieving knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Well, if you have Medicare insurance, you could qualify for these pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And these are high-quality braces. They are very comfortable, and they've helped thousands relieve their pain. Now, I'd like you to imagine going on vacation, playing with your grandkids, just living your life again without pain. The Mobility Hotline is a referral service that connects folks with Medicare coverage and other insurance to accredited companies offering pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And don't you worry about the Medicare paperwork. They'll handle it all for you. And they'll deliver your braces for free. Call the Mobility Hotline now. The call's free. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help, and your insurance may offer coverage.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction Hope and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573, 800-518-1573.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction Hope and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-518-1573, 800-518-1573.
Red State Talk Radio. Real radio for real Americans.
Now back to the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, we're back. Hey, I want to encourage you, check out our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and you can find anything you want there about our show. You can find out the people on our panel, what we do, why we do it, the way we do it, and anything there. All our archives, resources, anything you want. Anything that's tied to our show is on our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. All right, let me get back to this tax thing. We started the show out and continued throughout the show at different places talking about the tax returns of Donald Trump and the constitutional terrorism of the media under the protection, quote unquote, of the First Amendment that allows them to obtain information on private citizens and expose that information to the public for the purpose of fulfilling a narrative, an objective that fulfills a narrative. In this case, that our President Donald Trump is not the man he claims to be, and that he is in cahoots with foreign entities and foreign enemies, and is just not a good person. He's a bigot. He's a xenophobe. He hates everybody. And anybody that supports him, of course, is irredeemable and deplorable. All right, now, from there, talking about Nancy Pelosi's take on redistribution of wealth, or distribution of wealth, as she calls it, with the repeal of Obamacare. How all this money that's been taken from the rich to subsidize the poor is now going to be taken from the poor and given back to the rich. And it's the largest transfer of wealth in our history, according to Nancy Pelosi. I would think that would be Social Security myself. But anyway, another story for another day. Now, getting to the CBO's report, as we go through our little process of reasoning here. 24 million people will lose health insurance under the Republican health plan, CBO says. That's what Josh Keefe reports out there. I believe it's a Business Insider. I'm not sure. Anyway, the claim by the CBO is that 24 million people will have, by 2026, lost their insurance or will not have insurance. Will have lost their insurance. All right? But then by 2026, 52 million people will be uninsured, whereas under the Obamacare, only 28 million people would have been without health insurance. Now, you look at that number on the surface, you say, wow, that's astronomical. Well, when you consider the fact that most of these 14 million people, they're saying, will be people that simply do not buy it because of the mandate. The mandate is gone. Therefore, they're not forced to buy it, and so they're not going to buy it. The additional 10 million, as I said, will be what? Those who by 2026 will have attained the age at which they would be purchasing health care insurance and choose not to. And then, of course, that would up the number to 52 million, I believe is what they're saying, 52 million. The total of people between those who give up Obamacare now because the mandate is gone, to those who will not buy it because there is no mandate to buy it, to the total number of people that would be insured who may want insurance but wouldn't be able to afford to buy it. That's what they're saying. So it paints this dismal picture. But you hear the details, what it is Americans exercising their right not to buy something. Not to buy. That's the right. It isn't a right to insurance. It's a right to either buy or not buy insurance. And that's where the numbers become more skewed. I think I compared this the other day to unemployment numbers. We talk about the unemployment rolls. Oh, unemployment's down to 4.7%. Yeah. You take people that are not looking for work, all right, people like myself who have hence retired. So that means we're not in the workforce. That means that takes the number down. Number of people that are working but working not in their professions, underemployed. People that are getting part-time employment, all these take away. People that are no longer receiving unemployment insurance are taken off the rolls, and that's what drops the insurance or the unemployment rate down to the low number that they keep talking about, when it's actually probably up closer to 9-10%. So it's all how you skew the numbers and how you see the numbers. Now, as I said before the break, you look at the narratives now. This is one of the narratives. This is going to be the big narrative, because that was the big selling point of Obamacare in the first place. We had 40 million Americans that didn't have health insurance. All right? Well, apparently half of those people didn't want health insurance, but Obamacare mandated that they buy it. So, put it in perspective. The narrative, as I said before the break, is what? 9 million of these people, about 9 to 10 million of these people, under the Repeal Act of the Republican Party, will just choose not to buy insurance anymore. Again, projection, another 10 million by 2026 will choose not to buy insurance. And then those who maybe want it and can't get it, and so the number will be somewhere around 52 million. That's what they're saying. But that's going to be the narrative. The Republicans are forcing people off insurance plans. Not that Obamacare forced people onto insurance plans. Now, the second narrative you're going to hear, which is already being floated out there, is that women's health care is going to take a major beating. It's, let's see, what's here? Democrats are arguing that the American Health Care Act, the AHA, would set back advancements made in women's health care. Advancements made in women's health care. What a great set of words. What a great buzzword. Advancements made in women's health care. Under Obamacare, we made all these advances in women's health care. And repealing it is going to set all these advancements back. The war on women, that's going to be the second narrative. The Republicans don't want women to have access to affordable health care. That's going to be the narrative. Debbie Stabenow, Democrat in Michigan, says the new bill would take us back to those days where essentially being a woman was a pre-existing condition. So they're going to revamp and re-incite the war on women. That's what's going to happen now. So we're going to lose, all these people are going to lose health care insurance because they choose not to buy it. And the war on women is going to get revved up. It's going to fire up. And we're going to take away all these advancements. Well, what are these advancements? What are these advancements that we've made under Obamacare regarding the health care for women? Well, the legislation, as the Republicans have currently written it, prohibits women from using federal tax credits to buy a plan that covers abortion. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this, because these are the things that nobody talked about with Obamacare or under Obamacare, whether it was the left or the GOP. Nobody talked about this kind of stuff. You think about this. What do you mean tax credits to buy a plan that covers abortion? Do you mean Obamacare allowed tax credits for people who bought health care plans that provided abortion? I thought tax dollars couldn't go to fund abortions. But there you got to read the fine print. See, this is how the government works. This is why everything gets all messed up. They're telling you one thing and doing another. Because under Obamacare, Americans who bought their own insurance, meaning outside of employer-based plans, received tax credits for doing so. They were subsidized through the back door. You went and you got subsidies. You received federal subsidies when it came to abortion if you bought your health care plan outside of employer-based programs. So that means that if we're saying, well, it's not, abortions can't be tax funded, apparently not. But apparently they can be tax subsidized. It's a different way of delivering the money. It's a different way of distributing or redistributing the wealth. You're going to pay for the health insurance plan. you're going to get a tax credit. A tax credit is basically a refund. And that refund is a form of a subsidy. All right? So you get subsidized, you get a subsidized rate by buying a private plan outside of an employer, and you get tax credits for doing that. All right? So you're going to get money from the government subsidized for you to go buy a private health care plan that allows you to go to somebody that provides abortion services. That, to me, sounds like tax-funded abortion. But we don't call it that because what they're saying is the government's not allowed to give money to abortion clinics for the purpose of providing abortions to people that have health care plans. No, they don't. They give it to the health care policy owner. Then it's just a subsidy. It's not a tax-funded service. All right? Under the Republican plan, these subsidies will go away, and the tax credits will not be allowed for plans that cover abortion. So now if you buy an insurance plan outside of an employer-based program and you want to get an abortion, you can no longer receive tax credits or the backdoor subsidy from the federal government for buying a health plan that provides for abortion. No wonder that this is an advancement in women's health care. Subsidized abortions. That's the advancement. All right? We're not going to call it tax-funded abortions. We're going to call it tax-subsidized abortions through tax credits. All right? 6 of one, half a dozen another. This new proposal, or the Republican plan, is in line with the Hyde Amendment, which said that no government money can be used for abortions except in case of incest, rape, or saving the mother's life. All right? So, that's the abortion. We got more for you. We got to go to a break. When I come back, I'll hit the other two aspects of advancements in women's health care that the Republican GOP bill will take away. That's the narrative. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. TheConservativeSyndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. Hey folks, John Matthews here from the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, the Conservative Syndicate. The debate regarding who should be accredited with defining insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results lends to its own insanity. Whether Albert Einstein, Ben Franklin, or Rita Mae Brown coined the adage or not, its meaning is as true as the fact the sun will rise and set tomorrow. In much the same fashion, citizens across our great republic today are debating whether or not it is time to change course regarding the accepted established norms of our political system. Is it time to create a new party or continue to expect different results after electing the same people keeping our current system? Partisanship, corruption, and the desire to maintain power for the sake of power by those we elect, reinforced by decades of empty promises trotted out each election cycle but never fulfilled, has left America frustrated, angry, and rebellious to degrees not seen since the Civil War. The only viable solution is to quit adhering to the insanity of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. This is why the Conservative Party USA exists. The Conservative Party USA arose during the Tea Party Rebellion in 2010. It seeks to rectify the insanity that defines the consistent failures and corruption of the current two-party system by nominating and supporting candidates who are committed to imposing the conservative principles of fiscal discipline, restraining the reach of the federal government as outlined in the Constitution, and defending America's traditional family values. If you're tired of witnessing the insanity that dominates our political system, check us out at conservativepartyusa.org. That's conservativepartyusa.org. And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, we're back. The Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and let's get back into try to finish up this discussion here in the few minutes that we have left for the show today. I'm talking about the narrative now that's going to be trotted out here over the next few weeks, few months, however long it takes to get this repeal and replace piece of garbage through. I am no way defending what the Republicans are trying to do. I'm just basically exposing how the left is going to advance the narrative against it. I personally don't think either plan is good. That's just me. Looking at Rand Paul's plan, I think Rand Paul's a little bit closer to the mark here. But anyway, I was talking about how the three topics or the three avenues by which the left is going to try to advance the destruction of health care in America by the left if the Republicans get their way with this replace and repeal bill, the American Health Act, AHA. All right? Now, I mentioned that they're talking about, of course, people that are not going to buy insurance, don't want it, didn't want it under Obamacare, don't want it now, and will not want it in the future, are going to attribute to the roles of people that have lost their health care, the way that the Democrats are going to play this. And then I talked about the next part of the narrative is what? It's going to take away, it's going to set back the advancements made in women's health care. And I mentioned to you how abortion services are subsidized by the government to those who buy health care programs outside of employer-based plans. See, that's how they covered it up. Employer-based plans won't offer abortion services. Well, okay, but there are those who buy it outside of the employer-based health care. They would get tax credits that would basically allow them to subsidize the purchase of health care programs that have abortion providers. It's a backdoor subsidy. We're going to give you an advancement. We're going to give you an advance on taxpayer dollars. We're going to call it a tax credit when it's actually a subsidy that will allow you to buy a health care plan as a private citizen. All right? The Republican plan is going to take that away and say that if you buy that type of plan, you're not going to receive the tax credit. And so it will go away. That subsidy will go away. The proposal, as I mentioned, is more in line with the Hyde Amendment, which said taxpayer dollars cannot go toward abortions. All right? And so the fact that we're dealing with a tax-based healthcare system, and that's really what this is right now, that is telling us no taxpayer-funded abortions, but tax-credited abortions through tax credits. So it's not like what you're saying is we're not going to let you deduct it, that kind of thing. You're not going to get a tax deduction, whatever. But anyway, so under Obamacare, that was allowed. The other thing under Obamacare that was allowed was birth control. All right? Taxpayer-funded birth control. That is going to go away under the Republican plan. Here's the next one. Here's another aspect of this you got to look at. Planned Parenthood, the big Planned Parenthood debate about the great health care services that Planned Parenthood gives to the people that come into their clinics. The Republican bill wants to defund Planned Parenthood by prohibiting Americans on Medicaid, a government insurance program for the nation's poorest citizens and the disabled, from receiving reimbursements for visits to Planned Parenthood clinics. So it's not, again, this is a backdoor subsidy. This is backdoor taxpayer money going to abortion clinics. How they do it? You're on Medicare. Okay, that's a government program. You go and you have an abortion. Medicare doesn't pay for that, but the government will refund you or reimburse you the money for doing it. So how is that not subsidized? It's another backdoor subsidy. So they're saying, okay, we're going to defund Planned Parenthood, and what we mean is that money from Medicaid, apparently there's money from Medicaid going to Planned Parenthood or to somebody that allows people who get abortions to be reimbursed. So no, Medicaid is not paying directly for it. You don't file a claim with Medicaid to pay for your abortion. You file a reimbursement form, and you get reimbursed for the expenses involved in abortion. How is that not taxpayer-funded abortion? It all depends on what is. That's what we're talking about here. Okay? Now it says that Medicaid payments make up the majority of Planned Parenthood's funding. So this idea that Medicaid money is going in primarily for what? Mammograms? Mammograms, which, by the way, Planned Parenthood has never done. They are a referral service. You're going to tell me you need $500 million to print up brochures and hand out to people? Yeah, go get your mammogram screening over here. So, it's all backdoor subsidies, just not called tax-funded abortions. It's called tax credits. It's called reimbursements. 6 of one, half a dozen other. The money is the same, comes from the same source. You can label it, put it under a different expense category, but it's the same thing. So those are two of the three. The last one here is what? The last one is going to be senior citizens. The destruction of Medicare, the destruction of Medicaid. Medicaid is supposed to fade out down the line here. All right? That means what? We're going to push Grandma over the cliff again. We're going to put her back in that wheelchair as before, and we're going to push her over the cliff. So those are the three narratives we're looking at now for the next few months as they fight out and battle out, lie about, spin, and skew numbers, purposes, agendas, narratives, trying to stop the destruction of Obamacare. Be prepared for it. You heard it here. This is how it's going to play out. We'll be back tomorrow. Joe should be back with us tomorrow. We have Scott Faulkner, who will be with us the entire show again, filling us in what's going on in the Trump transition team right now. You can bet there's a lot going on. God love you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's theconservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best in uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, signing off until next time right here at the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.